The Tennessee Vols are looking to improve during their second bye week before they face Kentucky this weekend.
The Vols are hoping to say bye to their offensive struggles.
This is the PCS Volcast. I'm Shea, and this is Jace. Today we're going to be going over what Tennessee needs to improve, the last half of their schedule, and their chances of making the SEC championship and playoffs.
Yeah, this bye week is a pretty critical point in the season. Our first bye week, we did not improve anything. In fact, we actually got worse. But we have a very important part of our schedule coming up, and we'd like to, really be the best Tennessee team we can be coming out of this bye week.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we need to improve first.
Yeah, the biggest thing, this was a obvious. Well, it's been a problem the last three games. Is our first half scoring. That's a little too general, I think, to just say we got to fix the first half scoring.
Yeah, it's weird. The first drive from our offense these past few games has been looking really good. We get down to the end, or the red zone, or at least we get close, and then some sort of turnover. I mean, I guess it's usually a fumble, but
yeah, well, they were on these past two games at least. Yeah, but as you said, the drives have looked good, and we've been moving the ball. We got to the opponent's side of the field, and we just fumble. And I don't know if it's the players' confidence or it's Josh Heupel's confidence in the play calling, but something just goes wrong after those fumbles, and we really need to make sure that we, retain the ball. In 2021 and 2022, we were top 5 in the country in first quarter scoring. That really feels like Tennessee's identity is striking quickly, making teams play catch up, and we've done the exact opposite of that this season, being shut out 3 times in the last 3 games in the first half.
We are the exact opposite of that team.
Yes, we really are, because our concern was our defense in 2022, and now we're arguably the best defensive team in the country.
Yeah, and it seems like our offense loses the confidence it had after the first drive fumble, and we can't get anything going similar to that first drive after.
Mm-hmm. Another thing to improve, and I think these are all interrelated, is just Nico's accuracy problems and his connection with his receivers as a whole. Yeah. It's hard to just say, he's got to fix his accuracy. That's one of those things that, might take a season to work on for him. But, for all we know, if we score in that first drive, or at least put some points up in the first quarter, his confidence will be much higher, and he'll be able to complete these passes. We saw a lot of miscues, I'll say, from him in the Alabama game.
Yeah, what I won't say is that the play calling was bad last game. It was actually really good because we should have had 17 points before the end of the first half. And like we pointed out in the last episode, there were 4 drops by our receivers and 4 overthrows by Nico throughout the game, which were all points left on the board.
Right. So kind of looking ahead at our schedule here, we played Oklahoma, and they have a really good defense. The 2 really strong defenses we have yet to play is Kentucky and Georgia. We really need our play calling to be good for those games, especially Georgia. That's going to be the game of the season. Heupel, can't leave anything on the table in terms of tricks in his bag, whatever you want to say, for that game. But
unless he's holding on to certain plays for the Georgia game, he should have shown all of his plays by now. Because he said he was going to do that for Bama.
I was going to say, especially against Bama. Yeah, talking about the play calling, we did see it get better in the Alabama game as a whole, to be honest, especially in the second half. We're going to probably have an opportunity to put up a lot of points against Mississippi State, so that will be a good litmus test for our offense and the play calling. But yeah, the play calling and Nico's accuracy and the first half scoring and being comfortable with that first drive are all my 3 biggest things.
Yeah, honestly, these last few games make me more nervous than any of the games previously have.
Right.
I kind of see us overlooking Mississippi State because we have Georgia the next weekend. The only thing that keeps me confident in the Mississippi State game is that it's at home. And I think we have a hard time losing at home. We're pretty good at home, whether we're overlooking them or not. And I think our defense is not the one going to be overlooking. And I think they'll be able to stop, Mississippi State pretty good. But
Mississippi State's offense is better than I think we thought it was a few weeks ago. They've been able to put up some points against some solid teams. Yeah. Their defense is terrible. That's what I was saying. We should and hopefully will put up points in that game.
And Kentucky is also pretty scary. Usually Kentucky plays us like we play Florida,
Right.
but they've kept it close with two good teams, Ole Miss and Georgia. Now, Ole Miss I don't think is as good as we thought they were,
Right.
but keeping it close with Georgia, and I think that was a home game for Kentucky, but they look pretty good. They're just going to do exactly what Arkansas did to us, is what I'm afraid of.
We're going to have a video on the Kentucky matchup coming out this week. We're going to break down more in depth on what to expect for that game. We know what Kentucky's going to do. They're going to slow the game down, limit our offensive possessions, and their time of possession is going to be through the roof. So Josh Heupel has to call the plays that will capitalize on less possessions that we will have in that game. I'm not worried about our defense. That's probably going to be a really sloppy game.
Yeah.
Because, Kentucky will have the ball a lot, but their strategy is to run the ball. They have a very pro-style offense. They run a lot of time on the play clock out. So our defense should be able to eat in that game.
I will say Jermon McCoy worries me with Dan Key.
Hey, if he locked up Ryan Williams, I don't think he'll be a problem. Dan Key will be a problem for him.
And then, of course, the Georgia game in mid-November. A lot of people are writing this off as a loss for us without even really thinking about it. And I think I was too. But I've seen Georgia play down to their competition.
Yes.
Not that they're going to have to play too far down to us, but whenever they know they can easily beat a team, which I'd say they could just because of how bad our offense has been, they just let that team stay in the game.
Yep.
And if we stay in the game, we have a chance. We aren't Kentucky. We can get that final drive to win. You just don't look at Arkansas as an example, but hopefully we can, hopefully Nico won't run out of bounds this game, and we can at least attempt to win the game at the end. I mean, what do we need to improve to even, have a chance in this game?
Well, again, offensively, all the things we've been saying, we know that we can hit those deep shots just like Alabama did on Georgia in that game. That's always going to be there. The question is, can Nico do it? But defensively, this is going to be a really interesting game for us because Georgia plays similarly style-wise to Kentucky, but they have way better players.
Yeah. And way better coaching.
And way better coaching as well. But we know that Carson Beck is not perfect. He came into this season as a SEC Offensive Player of the Year candidate and a Heisman candidate as well. He's still in that category to most people. I disagree personally, but yeah, we know he's not perfect. And Georgia is going to really attack the line of scrimmage and, just physically impose their will on our players. But we can't let that bother us. We have to stay consistent, and we have to stay resilient. We also have to, Tim Banks has done a great job all year of what guys need to be in what situations. But we need to be, tip top of our game in that aspect against Georgia because even though we have a really good defense, they still probably out-athlete us in that regard. So, we can't let us being tired be an excuse in that game. But we have to give ourselves a chance in Athens.
You know what I already see happening? I see us with a 3rd and 10 early in the game, and we convert it, and then you see the flag pop up after holding
That's
offense, and then we send us back 3rd and 20, and we run it, and that's just I see that happening at least like twice.
Yep. I don't want to jump ahead too much here, but imagine in a playoff game or something, first ever playoff game, we just have a bad penalty game, and that kills it for us.
Most of the games this season.
That cannot be a problem. That's just inexcusable.
All right, and then we got UTEP. Whatever. UTEP is not having their best year, and it's at home. We should be able to handle that pretty easily.
I didn't. Funnily enough, the most overlooked games on the schedule for me coming into the season were UTEP and Arkansas. Well, obviously, we all know how that went, but the UTEP game is actually, I think, a little bit more important than it was, only because Vandy is better than we thought they were.
Yeah.
So that can't just be a lazy kind of just lounging around game. We actually need to use that game to, get better for Vanderbilt because that's not going to be a cakewalk game either.
Right. And then, like you said, we got Vandy at the end. Diego Pavia is better than Nico, and I think at some points it feels like Vandy has more heart than we do, especially on offense. They are so determined to score, and we are so determined to play conservatively instead of going out there to get the win. I don't know. That's just how it feels, at least.
Vandy's defense isn't great, but they've been able to capitalize on certain situations, like important situations, like when they stopped a loaded 5-star Alabama team on the lines of scrimmage when they were about to score in that game. So if they can do that to Alabama, they can do that to anyone. They've been getting tip interceptions. They picked off Quinn Ewers like twice yesterday, I believe. And if Quinn Ewers will throw a pick, Nico certainly will as well.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, like this game is probably going to hold a lot of weight because my expectation is we are going to win out as of right now and then probably lose to Georgia as well. So Vandy will have a lot of implications for a playoff spot, assumingly. That game's in Vanderbilt, so that's going to be a huge game, probably the biggest implications Tennessee Vandy has had in a long, long time.
Yeah, all their close games this season has been at home.
Yeah, and they're 2-2 in the SEC. Their 2 losses are a combined 6-point margin. 3-point loss to Missouri in overtime, and then they lost to Texas by 3, which that's crazy too. Like, if they got blown out in that game, no one would have batted an eye, and they stuck with it.
Well, they had a chance to win at the end.
Yeah,
and the Texas defense was too much for them. So hopefully we can be like that.
And the one thing I will say, though, that we should have hope with is I think that we match up well against them schematically. They do a lot of running, a lot of power running, and we have the best D-line in the country, I think. So, or one of the best at least. So I think in that aspect we match up well. But yeah, you just got to limit Pavia. If Tim Banks can limit Jalen Milroe to his design runs, how he did, I think we can do the same or close to the same with Pavia.
Yeah. I just think that Vandy wants nothing more than to ruin our playoff chances. Yeah. But, speaking of, let's talk about our playoff chances and our SEC championship odds.
So the SEC title game is kind of getting a little messy right now. We never assumed that there'd be this much infighting, I guess, in the SEC. There's only one team left that has undefeated in conference play. That's Texas A&M, and no one would have said that coming into the season.
Right.
So, yeah, Georgia has a loss. Texas has a loss. Bama has 2. Tennessee has 1. LSU just lost. And then, as I said, A&M is undefeated. It could really go either way here. But the good thing about the 12-team playoff is that you don't have to make your conference championship game to get a spot in. And because of how flawed that system is, I actually think Tennessee is sitting at a really good spot right now to get a good seed in the playoff. Yeah, my expectations right now for the SEC championship are Georgia and Texas, I guess. A&M just has such a cupcake schedule. They're probably going to make the playoffs. Do they deserve it? Maybe. I mean, with Marcel Reed, we're going to post another video this week about all the SEC teams and their matchups and our predictions for the upcoming matchups. And one spoiler I'll say for that is I am way higher on A&M with Marcel Reed as their quarterback. I think Wegman's good, but I think Marcel Reed fits their identity as a running team better.
Yeah.
And he's just an athlete. He is just an electric player, whereas Wegman is a little bit more consistent. The 3 most important games remaining in the SEC landscape is Tennessee, Georgia, Texas A&M and Texas, and Alabama, LSU, because that will shake up a lot of things here. If Texas beats A&M, which I assume they will, it'll probably be Georgia-Texas in the championship. If Tennessee beats Georgia and Texas A&M beats Texas, it would be Tennessee A&M. So, everyone's kind of still alive here for a conference championship bid.
How badly do we want to make the SEC championship? Because if we win, then we get a home playoff game. But if we lose, then we get no benefit from that, and our players played an extra game.
Right. I mean, pride reasons, I would like to make it because
I don't even think we've made it in a long time.
It's a long time. I don't know how much more cannibalism we're going to see in coming seasons, so this is the time to strike. You know what I mean? We're probably not going to see Georgia lose, a game or 2 in upcoming seasons, or with how good Texas is and Arch Manning coming up, we're probably not going to see them lose a lot either. So, this is kind of the time. However, because of how flawed the system is with the playoff, maybe not making it is better for us. So
maybe, but I would love a home playoff game.
I think we can still get one because if we're a top 6 seed, we get one, right? Because if we win the conference championship, we get a bye and a home playoff game.
Oh, I see.
But if we if we don't make it or lose, but we're still a top 6 seed, we do get that home playoff game.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I saw a lot of Notre Dame matching up with Notre Dame. I think if Boise State keeps winning, that could be a matchup as well, which would be really interesting.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to see Boise State in there, especially, well, not especially, but really only because of Ginty. I just want to see him play. As long as I don't have to see that god-awful blue field, I'll be happy.
I don't think they'll get a home game.
Yeah.
They could.
Thank goodness.
We also could match up with an SEC team because there are probably only 5 bids, SEC bids for the playoff, which is crazy. Like that we're taking up that much of a percentage of the playoff.
Yeah.
But, it just means more, I guess. I don't know.
So those were our thoughts on Tennessee's bye week. Stay tuned for our SEC power rankings. We're going to be doing SEC quarterback rankings and the preview for the Tennessee-Kentucky game this weekend. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe. Like this video. Let us know how likely you think Tennessee is going to make it to the championship or the playoffs. This has been the PCS Volcast. I'm Shea. This is Jace.
Go Vols!
Go Vols!